You
Doug,
lying. Hey,
so you're not going to sue Janicki Industries now?
no, I was never gonna. You guys were just problem solvers. You were problem solvers. I
Okay,
had a
well,
problem and you solved it. We solved
we'll
it.
we'll bring it. We might bring that up today, but maybe
Uh,
not.
you don't want too much because it's they're
I know.
endangered species.
I know. Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah,
Uh, never
protect
thought
them.
about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is everyone here, or should we give them another 5 minutes, or
How many do we have?
I don't know who's in charge of this thing today. I see my brother John. That's amazing. Good to see you, John.
Hey, glad to be here, Mike.
Yeah, and you're actually in your office.
I am.
Yeah, you've been kind of slacking lately. So there's 31 people here, and so Dan's here, right? Is Dan doing the new
Yeah, Dan Cooney.
Cooney? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
I think we can start this meeting. Okay.
okay, Mike,
Okay.
I'm gonna mute everyone except you.
Okay. Well, I got to put my flag right here because we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. All right. But ready? Okay, we're going to start. So, welcome everyone to Sedro Woolley Rotary, the best Rotary club in the universe. And John, you are going to do a prayer for us today, so you have to unmute John.
Okay, dear Lord, let us be thankful for all that we have. Let us pray for the people that are suffering during this pandemic, and may joy be brought to this world. Amen.
Amen. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all. And the four-way test: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to everybody? And whatever the last one is. And we'll go from there. Hey, I'm telling you, a month is all I can be away from a meeting without getting it wrong. Oh, wait. John, do we have a song?
Sure, we're gonna do "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" again. All right, unmute everybody. Travis.
Oh no.
Okay.
Okay. Hey.
Travis, quit muting yourself.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Row, row,
Row,
Row your boat.
row your boat gently down the stream.
Merrily, merrily, life is but a dream.
Down the stream.
Hey, mute everybody.
Merrily, life is but a dream.
That's sad.
Make it stop.
That was my daughter's version.
All right. So, Travis, are you in charge of this meeting today? I mean,
Yep.
do we have any guests? Can you tell if there's any guests here or Rotarian guests on today?
I don't see any. They all look like our Rotarians.
Hey, Christine has a guest.
Christine, do you have a guest?
Not really, it's just Cooper.
Hi, Cooper.
Hi,
Good
Cooper.
to see you. Okay. So let's, we're going to go to club business, and we have some dates we're going to start talking about. Kyle wants to know about the foot race and what's going to happen at Laga Rodeo, and Paul Chandler and Dot, his wife, I think that's right, have decided that they're going to make the decision on the 14th of May. So when it comes to the what's going to happen for the 4th of July, we will have a better idea what's going on after the 14th of May. We're trying to set up a couple activities this summer. And honestly, a week ago, I would have thought there would be no problem doing things this summer. A week later, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do, but I think that we can keep planning. And if we can't do it, it's not going to happen. But if we can, I think we should try to do those 3 items that are going to be silent auction. Steve Rule's party out at his property, the zip line that John and the Boy Scouts are going to do, and then Teek's tugboat right out in San Juan's. So for right now, we're in the planning stages, but we're not in the let's do it or not, because I think we may have to live in a different world this summer than I want to. I'm opening it up for discussion on any club issues right now. So if you got something, raise your hand. Travis will unmute you.
Or they can unmute themselves.
Or they can unmute themselves. Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
It's probably too early. I assume we're planning for these events like Steve Rules, but they're social gatherings with, 20, 30, 40 people. So they're not green lighted yet, right? We're waiting on the powers that be to decide whether we can do them, right?
That's correct. And I think that we can, some of these that you could do pretty well social distancing, but like Steve's is not going to be possible to have social distancing at that party. So we're going to have to figure that part out. Carl, have you and Mike got together and worked on, he had some issues on the book and that kind of stuff. And I guess that Daryl's needs to be involved in that too for next year.
So that's a question for Mike, because I did email him yesterday.
Yeah, I got the spreadsheet from Carl, and I'm in the process of going through it and looking at committees and things like that. So that'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so somehow
Ruth will be doing that booklet this year. So
okay, what is the deadline on that?
We usually like to have everything in by the middle of June, so we can get everything finalized and get to the printer by the 1st of July.
Shouldn't be a problem.
So this is the beauty of having really organized people on both sides of a president, because Carl is stepping in. He's the one that helped me do mine. And then I don't know what I did with that paperwork or anything. And so, but because Carl is that engineering, detailed oriented person, he was able to send that information directly to Mike. Mike's organized. He's going to have this taken care of. And so having a weak link in the middle has not broke the chain. So we're in good shape there. Mike, anything else you want to bring up?
At this point, I will eventually probably, I've got a grandchild that's about to be born here in the next week or two. So I'm going to have 2 weeks being pretty much out of the loop. But I will be sending the spreadsheet out to everybody, letting them approve it and making sure that I've got them where they want to be and going from there. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, you guys should see that, I would imagine.
Hey, I did have another idea. I haven't given a lot of thought, but we might want to give the auction committee the task of an alternative fundraiser if the auction can't be pulled off. And it could be a check writing campaign. It could be a lot of things, and I don't have any specific ideas. I think we need to be prepared to keep our economic engine going if we cannot have this auction in September.
Unmute yourself, Doug, so we can hear you.
I got it. Hey, have you guys set up a Venmo account? Because I got to pay a fine today, and it'd be really nice just to pay a Venmo right to Rotary.
Good idea.
Yeah, because that is a good idea. I don't know how to do that.
Is Kyle Rutherford on here? Kyle was going to set up something so that we could collect electronic payments even for like the 4th of July race. And I'm not sure if he was able to do that or not, but.
I set up my own Venmo. If I could do it, Mike can do it.
Right. But we've got to, it's because we're a 50c3, it's for the Rotary Club.
Well, that's for the foundation side, Daryl, but for the club side, for fines and things like that, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
It's in the club account, yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
So,
Mike and Mike, can I interrupt for a second?
Certainly.
So Paul Harris Award, do I take it that we're not going to do Paul Harris Awards this year?
I think we were going to talk about it at the next board meeting, which is May 12th, and make a final decision.
Okay, that might be kind of late to do on our normal timeline, but we could pull it off to do it whenever things break up, I guess.
Yeah, because I don't think, the installation dinner is probably not going to happen. So
right.
If we do decide to do it and elect to do, we can elect to do it later on at some gathering that we have.
Okay, I guess my 2 bits is I think it'd be a good year just to forego that and then take it to next year, because it involves work of Mike Janicki to get it pulled together too, and he's leaving and that. So just my 2 bits.
Okay.
So that the back to fundraising for the club, it's about $8 per person per meeting is what we're supposed to be giving. $5 for the wheel and maybe 3 in fines. I'm thinking of just writing a check for, I don't know, 10 meetings worth or whatever, and just mailing it to the P.O. box.
well, you could either mail it to the P.O. box or just drop it off at Steve Huggins's.
Right. But I think it's important that we all chip in to fund our club, and then we also have to figure out how to fund the foundation.
Hey, Mike, I'll talk with Steve and Kyle and see if we can get a Venmo account set up, just so it's another option for folks.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, the way I was trying to figure it out too, because I spend about $20 a week when you add the meal in or more, so that's like $80 a month. And I was thinking, well, maybe if people wanted to, we could, if they paid like $50 a month, we would have money in the accounts to, I mean, even if we gave it all to the food bank at the end, what's the difference? But I guess we need to discuss that. I was hoping that we wouldn't have this, but I can realistically say that we probably are at least a month away from being able to have a meeting, according to what I got out of Ensley's talk 2 days ago. We're up for discussion. I don't know what people think, but I think we're at least the end of May before we have a meeting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, the other thing is dues usually come up May or June. So why don't we aim for like the 1st of May to get the dues coming out and just do a donation in there for the lost income when we pay our dues, and try to collect the dues for next year a little early to keep the cash flow up.
Can always, if we want to agree on an amount, I can add it to the invoices that I send out when we go to collect the dues. But I don't want to force people to have to pay it, but maybe we can, I'll look on Club Runner and see if there's something that I can do to leave it open, maybe for pay what you can.
Hey, Mike, this is John. Hey, I think the board can handle this. I really think that you guys can discuss it, and I think the club will go along with the board. I think you should look at what your costs really are, because a lot of the fines are paying for other people's lunches and guests and things. And so I think we should look at what our costs are, and then see. And I don't think we should put any more money into the club than we need to. And then at the same time, you guys should. I agree with Carl. We should think of something to supplement the foundation, because that's where we really need to spend the money and look at options for that. But and we should have Venmo that people can do it. But I think whatever suggestions and things could just come from the board, and through the club runner or whatever, and communicate with everybody, because there are a lot of people that are not logging into here, but they look at the club runner stuff. Thanks.
John, I always like your opinion, even if we have a group of people here that actually have opinions too, and they're not going to make it to the board meetings. So some of this stuff I don't think is bad to talk about at a board meeting, but I will we will bring it up at the board meeting. I'm just trying to figure out if it's even makes sense to collect money just in case we can have a salmon barbecue, because these are the monies that we would be. Or should we just say, we're not doing Paul Harris, we're not doing a salmon barbecue, we're not going to do a golf tournament? Maybe that's what we should decide at the board meeting is, are we going to just skip all those things and then we wouldn't need this money? So that's my concern, is to not do anything. I think Rotary needs to push the envelope of what's capable of us doing, but at some point we have to do what's safe too.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna board meeting, but the one thing that I think is really important, we need to have the installation dinner. It's not going to happen in June. I think that's too early and too risky, but I think we should plan one in the fall, because it's kind of a rite of passage for Mike Mosier and all that. We need to do it properly in person. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So not very often do.
Keith had something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my question too is the typical Paul Harris Award in other clubs is donating $1,000 to the foundation, and we are going to need foundation money to go on with our projects, as we're not going to get any of that till really late fall. So what about on the when we send out the dues statements, would you like to donate $1,000 or something to the foundation, and have one-stop shopping at that time when the dues statements go out? And I would throw that out to the board to discuss, because most of us would be spending money at the auction anyway in May. And if we want to keep up the foundation work, then why not donate into our foundation or into the international to try to keep our foundation money up, and let Paul Harris Awards this year be donations, which is different from what we've done before. But I throw that out for the board and people to think about.
The Paul Harris's don't cost us anything because we have plenty of credits available. So that's not an issue, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be just contributing to the foundation if you feel compelled to.
So maybe when we do the dues, there could be a line item that if you want to do a donation, and it doesn't have to be $1,000, it could be $100, right? I mean, you could donate whatever you wanted to the foundation. We were going to try to do that this spring anyhow, because we get so much money back from the foundation on our international projects that we should really be putting some more money in there. So we'll talk about that. And I think John's right. John's usually right, that this stuff should all be discussed at the board meeting. And we will have that on the agenda for the board meeting. It's just really hard to have a board meeting on Zoom because you really I need to have the people in the room, and we just don't have that. So I'm not a professional at doing these meetings, and but I think that we should figure out somehow to fund other things, because most of us Rotarians are in the fortunate group that we actually still have money coming in. I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but I never knew that loggers were essential until we had a pandemic, because most of the time I spent my life defending that we weren't the worst criminals in the world. And with that story about being the worst criminals in the world, I want to go to a problem that Doug Wood had at his house. Doug, why don't you just kind of tell us what happened there? And I just think people should know what we have to deal with on a weekly basis.
Okay, it started out a long time ago when they started venting, what do they call that thing?
The autoclave.
The autoclave over there. Well, we would hear it at our house. And then in the last month, it got more and more and more intense. And I called Mike. I said, I'm not complaining. I said, I just need to try to figure this out, because it freaked my dog out. He would run and hide indoor, outdoor. It got louder and louder and louder. And finally, I taped it. Well, come to find out, some birds had nested up in the top of my chimney and were making a noise. And so anyway, the thing about Mike said, and I always appreciate this because he's 100% true. Whatever you need, call Tim, and he'll get whatever you need, and tell him you talk to me. So anyway, problem solved. Thank you, Mike. It was not the plant, but I couldn't figure it out, but I got my Inspector Clouseau hat on and got it.
So this is the beauty of being upriver, because there's multiple ways to getting birds out of your chimney. You can hire somebody, bring a man lift in, get a net, pull them out, whatever. But there's one surefire way of getting birds out of a chimney, and that is just build a fire in the bottom of the chimney. And the birds have two options: either get out or be dinner. That's the two options you have for these birds. And so Doug has no bird problems in his chimney anymore. And John, you didn't have to have to do something on the sound of your plant up there, and everyone's happy. So glad we could get that worked out, Doug, and thank you. And
thank you. You guys are great neighbors, and we appreciate you. And you told me to call John, but I didn't want to go to that level.
So
you mean a lower level?
Nope.
Okay, so John, we're going to have you introduce our guest today, and we're going to do a new member meeting. We don't really have you get to leave early because it's still early. So hopefully everyone will stick around, and John, you get to introduce Dan, okay?
Okay, this is great. Now we don't have to hear Mike anymore, so that's always good. Hey, so I'm very pleased to introduce Dan Cooney. He's one of our financial geniuses at Janicki Industries. I give him very, very difficult analysis problems on, how we figure out how to make money or not, or whatever, where our problems are. And he goes into the system and works it out He's one of our top people, and he's always been a very caring person. I just knew that he would be a great Rotarian. And so let's, with that, I'm going to introduce Dan, and let's hear his story. Thanks.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for that nice introduction. That was very kind. Well, good afternoon, everybody. What an honor it is to have this opportunity to speak to you here today. I once heard a story of a senior citizen who drove his brand new Corvette convertible out of the dealership. Taking off down the road, he floored it to 80 miles an hour, enjoying the wind blowing through what little hair he had left. Amazing, he thought, as he flew down the I-5, pushing the pedal even more. Looking into his rear view mirror, he saw a state trooper behind him, lights flashing, sirens blaring. He floored it to 100 miles an hour, then 110, then 120. Suddenly, he thought, what am I doing? I'm too old for this, and pulled over to await the trooper's arrival. Pulling in behind him, the trooper walked up to his Corvette, looked at his watch, and said, "Sir, my shift ends in 30 minutes. It's Friday the 13th, and if you can give me a reason for speeding that I've never heard before, I'll let you go." The gentleman paused. Then he said, "Years ago, my wife ran off with the state trooper, and I thought you were bringing her back." And the trooper said, "Have a nice day, sir." So much of my life has not been like the ending of this story. Like many of us, there have been mistakes, frustrations, hard times that we've been faced with. But it's been from these mistakes and frustrations and hard times and difficulties that I have grown the most in character and become a stronger person through it. For the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you a little bit about me and some of the challenges I was able to overcome. I was born in Southern California. My dad was a graduate of Gonzaga and studied with the Jesuits for 13 years to become a priest to serve God. Just before his ordination, he left his pursuit of the priesthood and felt that God had a different calling on his life. Following this, he went into teaching and counseling high school students. He married my mom, who was of all things a former nun with the Maryknoll Sisters. Over the years, they raised 9 children, and 2 of them being adopted. When I was about 4 years old, my family moved up to the McMinnville, Oregon area. While I was in high school, I worked as a laborer with my best friend doing construction work. His family had a construction business and needed strong backs from time to time. One day I went out looking for some extra work. While going from door to door picking up applications, I noticed that there was a new Little Caesars pizza shop opening soon in McMinnville. I put in my application to work there and was hired. Over the next 4 years, I moved up quickly in responsibility from assistant manager to manager of his next store, and eventually the market supervisor over all of his stores with around 150 employees under me. Being only 18 years of age, my leadership and personnel skills grew quickly as a result of the variety of individuals that were employed. It was in these years that I got my feet wet with basic financials and P&L statements. After about 4 years, I decided that I needed to pursue other opportunities. Remembering that I had a lot of dreams and ideas that I wanted to pursue left me longing to see what else was out there. I had an old friend that had just started a logging company and needed some extra help. Given that I was in between jobs, I decided to go for it. We didn't do all that well logging. Most of the time, we ended up talking and solving world problems over coffee sitting in the pickup, waiting for the weather on the Oregon coast to let up in the months of January, February, and March. However, I did learn some of the processes and procedures and a little bit about the industry. I came across another logging job with an immediate need and decent pay. I was hired on and began working on the landing. This was a thinning job using a tower crane. After a few months of this, I was moved out into the brush and helped out on the rigging. The next project was a clear cut, and I worked hard and proved myself as a legitimate logger while running the rigging out there in the brush. Following this project, we got a somewhat larger state contract doing selective thinning, which utilized most of our equipment. On this project, I was able to show that I was a natural at operating equipment as well as leading crews. I had good success working for this company and had a lot of fun in the process. Most of the guys that I worked with had much more experience than I did. Most of them had war stories and a quick recollection of how they had been injured at one time or another. Hearing this, I knew that I wanted to be doing something different that wasn't so physically intensive when I reached my 40s and 50s. So I found an exit. My brother-in-law was in the Seattle area with a company flipping properties and asked me to join him. I began working doing construction work 5 to 6 days per week, and in my free time, evenings and weekends, I was getting to know the Puget Sound by tracking all the homes that looked promising on paper and from a curb view. We had a little success for about a year or so. However, I learned the hard way the importance of having financial agreements in writing, even with family. So off I went back to Oregon. Some of my friends were telling me that there is a significant need for construction work, remodels, etc. They had already months of work lined up for me. I just had to go get licensed and bonded and insured. So I did just that and got going. I came to understand this was very hard work, working through the day, planning, organizing, bidding work, cleaning, repairing tools, doing books, billing, collecting, pay from clients, etc. Then 9/11 hit, and the world also stood still for a little bit. Most of the available construction jobs dried up, and I found myself wondering what to do now. I had always wanted to pursue a college degree and thought this was the time to go all in and give it the best effort I could. I pondered to myself, I had worked hard and long hours in several professions. If I could apply the same work effort and discipline to college, I just might be able to be successful there as well. I also like to hunt and fish. This was a big distractor over the last 10 years, and I did a lot of big hunts. I also had a mentor of sorts. While philosophizing with him and discussing dreams, he once said to me, "What are you willing to do to pursue your goals and dreams? What are you willing to give up in the short term to accomplish your long-term goals?" Almost every year I said to myself that I was going to go get into school and pursue a degree, but every fall the elk bugle was too much for me. However, this time I was determined to make a significant change. So I enrolled in the local community college and took on a heavy load, giving it my full effort. And I did well. I even made the honor roll. I was set to transfer to Oregon State University in the fall of 2003. However, that changed one night as I was coming home from a friend's house. There was this horse that had gotten out of its pen and it was in the road. I was driving a small car and traveling at highway speeds, and the large horse impacted my car and knocked me unconscious. In that very moment, everything in my life went into a tailspin. I had significant bodily injuries. One moment I was on top of it all, the next very thankful to be alive and have family around me to help me. I had years of rehabilitation and tremendous efforts working to overcome my injuries. I became very frustrated that I wasn't seeming to be able to get back to where I was and not satisfied with the new me. I became bitter and angry, but God was working in me. My pastor was preaching a sermon on the Lord's Prayer. In his sermon, he stated that if we don't forgive those who sin and trespass against us, God won't forgive us our sins and trespasses. That sank into my head. I felt convicted and was very determined to make peace with all those whom I could think of where I had been holding on to the wrongs they had done to me. I desperately wanted God's help to complete the healing in me and to help me get back on my feet again. I took a step of faith that this was going to change my life. It was at this point that everything started to change in me for the better. Physically, I started to improve. The bitterness left me. I had a smile on my face again and was genuinely happy for each new day. Forgiveness is freeing, as they say. I had turned the corner and I re-enrolled in the community college and worked on completing the last of the few classes I had been working on. After this, I transferred into Oregon State University and pushed through the coursework there and was able to complete my bachelor's degree in business administration. It was about this time that I met my wife, Rachel. My parents and her grandparents had been good friends for many years. They got together one day and determined that we needed to meet each other. We were set up, and after dating for almost a year, we ended up getting married, and she is originally from Burlington. It was now 2009. The economy was in dire straits, and the job market was not very good. I pondered what work I should pursue while being newly married. I had a contact at a global construction company and called in a favor to at least hopefully get into an interview. And with God's help and his favor on me, I was able to get that interview and got assigned to a project in Seattle called Brightwater. It was about $2 billion of sewage infrastructure work that King County was the owner of. My employer had 2 contracts for approximately $250 million of that. One of my responsibilities was maintaining union relationships and working through conflicts. There were definite times that these things were very challenging, but I was able to maintain these relationships, and in most cases, I developed excellent working relationships with them. About this time, Rachel and I became pregnant and had a boy. His name is Jeremiah, and he is now 7 years of age. He is currently on the spectrum of what is known as autism. This has proven to be tremendously hard and a blessing all at once. The hard part is what you must endure day in and day out with a child on the spectrum. I have the utmost respect and admiration for all those who endure this. The blessing is the joy that he brings to most anything and everything. Another blessing of going through this is that it will make all of your imperfections boil to the surface. When you realize and recognize these things, there's an opportunity to fix and make them better. I have developed a deeper walk with Jesus Christ. He is my Lord and Savior, and without him, I am nothing. Following the Brightwater project, I got transferred just down the road to another project called the Design Build SR 520 Floating Bridge and Landings Project, also known as the world's longest floating bridge replacement. This project was a massive effort. We had 2 large contracts that totaled around $1.2 billion. It was a lot of fun. My role on this was the same as it was a Brightwater project, everything financial, compliance, and risk management. Me and my team owned. I was able to leverage many of the lessons learned in my past to help me with successes here as well. At this construction company, you had to move to where the work is located. This could be anywhere. I was very fortunate that these 2 projects I was assigned were in the same area generally. Rachel and I had always thought at some point we would love to live in the Skagit Valley and to make our permanent home here. The options were limited, but we trusted in the Lord to open the doors at the right time, and he did just that. We were able to get work here, and every day we wake up and thank the Lord that he has allowed us to live here. We are very blessed indeed. We have since had a second child, and his name is Jonathan. 3 years of age, he is very smart and verbally advanced for his age. In closing, when I filled out the Rotary application, I believe there was a question that asked me about what I'm passionate about. I listed providing help to orphans, widows, and single moms. In the book of James, chapter 1, verse 27, we are told to visit and care for orphans and widows in their time of need. In my heart, I don't want to ever turn my back on those who could use a hand, help, or encouragement. Right now, because of the COVID-19, we have a lot of people who are in a great state of fear, needing comfort, help, and encouragement right here in our community. They are all around us, and together we will overcome this. Thank you very much for allowing me this time today. I am looking forward to working alongside each of you in the projects we take on here at the greatest Rotary Club in the universe.
Wow. Dan, that's an unbelievable story. I can't believe John didn't already tell me that I would, and, there's only one spot in the why of all those different whys that you came through, to get here. We could have paid you probably a third of what you're making, and you would have worked twice as hard, but the timber industry could really use you. So if worst comes to worst, and if you don't like John, just come across the street to us, and we'll make a deal. It'll be the worst deal of your life, but I think you have qualities that the timber industry could use. So
Dan's pretty cool. He's stealth. He never told me he was an ex-logger.
Well, the thing is that he was in a car wreck or got hit by a horse, and I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But that would have happened to you just in your daily life if you would have stayed in the timber industry, though. So you were smart to get out of it. So we're going to open it up. Anyone have a question for Dan? So just raise your hand or something, and Travis will run you through.
I got a question for Dan. This is Travis. Dan, when are we going elk hunting?
Yeah. It has been a long time. That was one of the things I had to, when I went back to school, I said, all right, I gotta stop the fall hunts, and I gotta stay focused on so I haven't gotten into any hunts since about 2000. I think about 2000 was the last time I went on one. So I'm very eager and looking forward to it at sometime. So soon, hopefully.
Very cool. We'll have to talk.
Anyone else have any comments for Dan? I thought he did an unbelievable job, and I'm not just saying that they're younger, but the new members that we have in Rotary today are, I don't know if I can say this, not make somebody mad, but they seem to have their act together, and they're really able to articulate what they have done, and they look backwards to see where they're going forward. I mean, it's really cool, Dan. This is a great story. We're going to do a couple more of these in the next month, and I think you've Daniel Baird and Stephanie had set a bar that was pretty high, and I thought Dan did an excellent job staying at that level. And thank you very much. Is there anything else that we should bring before Rotary?
Yeah, Mike, I got one comment, and this is back at Dan. I had the pleasure of spending a Saturday with Dan at the grant writing seminars up in Ferndale. And Carl and Teak, you guys need to get Dan involved in writing grants. He's got a very deep interest in it, and would love to help you out.
Well, I'm already on that. And
good.
Dan, I was wondering what your wife, her name was.
Rachel.
Rachel, okay.
That's right.
Okay, so what school district are you in? Do you know, Dan?
I think it's Mount Vernon. I live off of Francis and Swan, kind of that area.
Okay, I was just, because your son, is he in a program?
He's not. We've been doing kind of a homeschool type program. He's doing a lot of therapies, if you will, here locally. And so we haven't fully got him into an outside the home schooling yet.
Okay, well, Phil Brockman and you need to sit down and have a conversation, because if you're in the Sedro Woolley School District, we have an unbelievable program for exactly what your child needs.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
You're still on here, aren't you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yep. Dan, I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you anytime.
Yeah, because I think that
Thank you, sir.
There's some services that really can help everybody out here. That's part of the team that this we have here is that we're I mean, this team has Dave Brick and me in the same team, so just think about that every day, that you can have class and whatever I am in the same room. So any other thing we need to bring up to today?
Hey, Mike, just a general question. Does anybody listening in right now have insight into the Rotarians who are not joining? Number one, is there any technology challenges that we could help them with? And number two is, have we been reaching out to any of these? Like I'm thinking of some of the older members, especially that haven't joined us on the Rotary calls.
Mark, what do you think on that?
Well, I represent the older people, so I think me having Bill McCann and myself on it, I think that's proof that we can do it. My neighbor's Phil, and he's pretty busy right now doing some other things, but I think it's a big challenge. I don't think it'd be a bad idea if you could personally reach out to him. I don't know how else. Maybe give him a phone call and see if they need some help, because I know some a lot of people, doesn't mean that they're older, are technologically challenged, and this could be a challenge. It seems simple to get on, but it's a challenge for people, and it's hard to get used to. So yeah, it's a good idea, Travis, to contact people. I think there are a number of us though that are elder Rotarians that have managed pretty well to get on.
Well, I didn't mean that to sound like older people are challenged with technology. I wondered if there was older Rotarians.
Yes, you did. You did.
That need reaching out
to. I think that maybe we need to do a little bit better. But I know that there's people. There's just a lot of stuff going on when you have all your kids at home, or you're taking care of other people. I'm fortunate. I think we have 31 people on here. I think that that's a good number. I think that we should definitely try to make these meetings as informative as possible so that people want to come. We have 42 people. Ruth just pointed out, we have 42 people at this meeting, which is probably above what we normally get at a meeting. So I think we're doing really well. But I think that
hey, Mike, if somebody needs a computer to sit at, they can contact me. I have an office that I could set up my spare computer, and we could maintain social distance and so forth. So if somebody can identify somebody that just doesn't have the hardware, let me know, and they can visit me during the meeting time.
So Christine just informed me. I love this because we normally have 50 to 60 people at a meeting, and so she wanted to make sure that I don't fall too far towards Trump, and just make stuff up as I go. That there's actually some facts going on here. Yeah. So I've been accused of fake news. See, they're telling me what I'm even supposed to say now. So I think they're going to tell me to be quiet and adjourn the meeting.
Hey, Mike, before you do that, Daryl Skiles has had his hand up down there wanting to say something.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know, Chuck Rule and I have been here. So some of us older ones are around.
Actually, I think we're in good shape. I think that we need to just make sure that we push this out to everybody and maybe communicate by phone to some of these people to help them. Because I think we're going to be another month like this, you guys. So we need to not let people slide through the cracks. So anything else?
Well, somebody mentioned looking ahead. I think it was Carl. By what I read and see, it could be more than a month, Mike. I mean, we could be well into next fall, beyond the date for the auction before this social distancing goes away. It could be the rest of the year or even beyond that. So it kind of depends on what the facts are and how the science works. So I know it'd be nice to get back together again, and it's really different doing it this way, but you got to look ahead, like we're not going to be able to meet again, maybe for the rest of the year. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough nut to crack, but let's hope we can keep it together. Like I said, when I had my installation thing, I don't want to be the club like the other animal clubs where they're just starting to disappear because they couldn't adapt. We do not want to go extinct. We want Rotary to still be here 100 years from now. And so we have to be able to adapt to whatever is going on in our community and in the world. So with that, I hope everybody hangs in there with us.
Mike, this Bill, I have this little book called The Wit and Wisdom of Mark Twain, and I'd like to leave us all with one of the pages from that, if that's okay. This is from, well, it's one of his statements. Always do right. This will gratify some people and astonish the rest. That's it.
Thank you, Bill. And with that, anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.